Should you buy Watch Dogs 2 in 2021? Watch Dogs 2 is the sequel to the original Watch Dogs that was extremely controversial due to the false advertisement of the Watch Dogs trailers. So Ubisoft decided to take the franchise and do a 180. Gone are the dark, mature themes of the first game and its main character Aidan Pearce, but when something is gone, it must be replaced, and that's where Watch Dogs 2 comes in. Welcome to Classic Game Reviews, where we go back in time and take a look at the games of the past, and today's game is Watch Dogs 2. We'll be talking narrative and gameplay. One last thing, if you actually do enjoy this video, remember to smash that like button so you can support the channel and maybe even stick around by subscribing. Thank you for 170 subscribers, that is insane growth to me. Watch Dogs 2 is the exact opposite of what the original Watch Dogs set out to achieve in terms of narrative. Watch Dogs was an attempt at a dark story full of your cliche revenge-driven protagonist known as Aidan Pearce that explored multiple mature themes mainly focused on the power hackers can gain from security flaws in something called CTOS. It was attempting to copy the real-life group Anonymous that was very public at the time, but honestly did it very poorly. I have to praise Ubisoft for attempting a gameplay idea which at the time could have been genuinely innovative, but the narrative just failed to deliver for many different reasons. However, Ubisoft doing a full 180 for Watch Dogs 2 was so out of the blue, I personally think it harmed the narrative significantly. Let me explain. Watch Dogs 2 completely ditches the themes that were present in the first game rather than trying to improve on those themes. They replaced them with almost nothing. I hate to say it, but the only theme I think they attempted to explore thoroughly was a system that predicted people's chances of committing a crime with their personal data, which is more of a theme on privacy and stuff like that. Sure, you could argue that it's an interesting idea, but it simply wasn't executed well. The new protagonist Marcus is a guy who happens to be a hacker recruited into DedSec, a group from the first game that was apparently serious and a genuine threat to companies, etc., but Ubisoft turned this group into a bunch of young men and women who just want to get views and clicks to take down a company called Bloom. That's it. The lack of narrative development is shown further through the new characters. They are genuinely caricatures, with the occasional scene showing some sort of decent writing. It's not all bad though. The lack of mature themes as well as character development is helped ever so slightly by the comedy in the game. While most of it really doesn't land, as Ubisoft seem to hire people who don't understand how people actually talk, some of it does land. When it does land, the game actually made me chuckle a bit, so I have to praise the writing for that. The final thing I have to say about the narrative is also unfortunately negative. There is a serious lack of stakes, and with no stakes there is no investment, and when there's no investment there is no engagement, and I have to say, I was never engaged in this narrative. Not once. Without spoiling too much, a character you meet in the story does die out of nowhere, and I mean nowhere. It's just a random mission in the middle of the story, and the mission ends with this person being killed off. Why am I mentioning this? The original Watch Dogs did this exact cliche already and did it way better. It just seems like Ubisoft lost faith in the franchise's ability to tell engaging stories and simply told the writers make something funny. It's a damn shame because I genuinely see this franchise having potential narratively, but they just choose to ditch it even with the new game Legion. It's just a joke at this point. Leave your thoughts and opinions on the narrative below. I personally didn't enjoy it. Watch Dogs 2 did actually innovate on the original's gameplay. Watch Dogs 2 streamlined all of the gameplay features from the first game and simply expanded on most of them. Some hacking abilities are the exact same, like the traffic lights hack, so it sucked not seeing more innovation on those mechanics, like the ability to control the exact timing each traffic light on each side turned green and red, so you could roleplay as a good guy, for example, so you didn't have to run a red light or something like that, so you could feel good, you know, you're a good citizen. That was one of the themes of the game that they failed on. Combat in Watch Dogs 2 is nothing new. It's a third-person, cover-based shooter with some hacking here on the side. Unfortunately, somehow Ubisoft went backwards with Watch Dogs 2 in terms of combat. The best part of the original Watch Dogs, in my opinion, was the ability to run around and act like you were Keanu Reeves playing John Wick in John Wick, who happened to be in Chicago. Watch Dogs 2 ditches that decent gunplay for a more stick-to-cover and pop-up approach, which really bored me towards the end of the game and made me verbally grunt anytime I was forced into a combat situation. Somehow, Ubisoft managed to make stealth a more fun and action-packed experience, and somehow, I just genuinely can't figure out how they did it, but it's just more fun than actual combat, and that's so hard to do in my opinion. In stealth you can be as loud as you want with hackables, which is actually a fairly unique experience that the Watch Dogs franchise has to offer, which took me aback in both games. I only wish the hacking was more in depth to make the whole experience more satisfying. Driving has been significantly improved from the first Watch Dogs, which is great as you spend most of your time driving around going mission to mission, so at least they got the driving right. However, there is a serious lack of unique vehicles to use, but at least you have bikes that feel like bikes this time around. The one thing Ubisoft did extremely better compared to the original Watch Dogs was the open world. While San Francisco in Watch Dogs 2 lacks a lot of things to do, the things you can do are unique to the franchise. Things like hacking into people's homes to find an angry gamer very similar to myself when I hop on Warzone with my mates, and being able to decide whether we should punish this gamer for taking out his rage on other players. I did do that was quite fun. Overall, there really isn't much to talk about Watch Dogs 2, and I just finished the game for a second time. I think compared to the original, both in gameplay and narrative, Watch Dogs 2 is just an overall step down, but not by much. Watch Dogs 2 innovates a bit in gameplay, but completely destroys any sense of an engaging narrative worth playing through. Watch Dogs 2, unfortunately, is not a classic. Leave your thoughts down below, and thank you for watching.